All right, all you devils, how's it going? Sam here with you. It's Wednesday the 15th, and I've been kind of scouring some of my sources here looking for a trade that might be interesting where perhaps there's an opportunity and something that's setting up, and maybe there's a little bit of educational content as well. So I'm kind of using both of these sites that you've heard me reference before. So I'm over here on Coin Checkup, and I'm sorting based off of their algo scoring. I'm looking for things that aren't, either in free fall or just are, in a pump set or in a pump stage. Often is the same thing over here with Lunar Crush. Often you'll find these, and while they may have a very high ranking here on both their Galaxy score, which is a bit of a strength of project, and then altcoin ranking, which is their strength relative to Bitcoin. But often by the time it's up here on these higher ranks, the thing is just vertical, and so now you're just in a hurry up and wait. So I kind of work through this and I'm looking for things that have decent ranking over here on the Galaxy score. Anything over 50 is considered strong, bullish. So I'm kind of back and forth here, and project I've kind of had my eye on is NANO. So I see NANO over here at Coin Checkup. Their algo scoring is it's number 7 down here is NANO. And while it's trending higher, we don't have this kind of situation like we have with Quantum or Link, things that are just in absolute pump mode. So looking at that, I thought it had me curious to look around and see if we could find something. So I'm over. This is NANO to Bitcoin on Binance. Now this is a 30-minute chart. If we pull out a little bit here to a 30-minute. Oh, pardon me. Excuse me. This is a 3-hour, right, from a 30-minute. Well, here let me hide this because we'll get there in a second. So let's put that. Of course, anything like that where we get an internal retracement, we want to be looking at median lines. So just looking, kind of where we've been. I'm going to go even further out here. So obviously, like all, it looks like all of alts, right? So if you go back out and put it in some context, okay, so maybe something's starting here, but considering where we've come from, long way to go. So let me just zoom in here, down here a bit, and we'll get a better look at this. So I'm going to go from the 8-hour to a 3-hour here, and let me get this reset. All right, so let's scrunch it back up together. So we've got a contender here for a low, and then fairly good price action coming off of this. Now, this is a little bit challenging here in the count, in that because of the depth of this, we have to call this a completed impulse here, so I can go 1, 2, 3, 4 extensions in the 5th. But now coming down from that, so if it's a completed impulse, of course, what are you looking for, right? You're looking for the 50 to the 618, and boom, right? So the first, and it does look like it's an 8. Pardon me. Let me relabel this. So this would be a WXY. All right. Shame on me for not getting that prepped. Right. Sometimes I just see it and I forget to log it. Okay. So I think you do have to go WXY here because this move here looks like such a clear 3. Right, pretty much. And then you've got this pump wick down here. These I will often, it's just something unusual happened there, market order, so something happened, somebody got bent over there, and then it swings back, and then so I'm not really concerned about how that's distorting the count coming down. I'm looking at the broader sense of it, and it looks to me like it's an ABC coming down here. So reasonable that we can have a WXY. Now this, you got to have an expanded B wave here. So purists are gonna quibble with that in that the X shouldn't go that far, but I could simplify it and just say, all right, okay, so I've got a nice little divot here in the volume profile. I've got clear prior resistance. Now it's becoming the support. If you want to call this resistance, you could even draw it in from over here. So prior resistance, now we've come to this area of support. Now we've tested this multiple times, and then we're getting the kick off of that. So, as to how you label this, I'm inclined to think that this is our correction here because this 3 doesn't fit in with the broader count. So I'm not a hardcore purist. So if you want to call it, I guess I suppose you could do it as a 3-3. You could do it as an expanded flat. You could do it that way, right? So here, I'll take care of purists here. Okay, so we'll do it this way. Right, it really doesn't matter to me. All I see is that this is the corrective level down here. We've gone through an impulse. I've got some sort of wacky correction here, but I've tested this level multiple times here, and now I'm getting a nice reaction off of it. So I would be inclined to call this 1, 2. So I think it's reasonable here. So if we go 1, now I'm going to allow for the expanded B wave here. 2, and now we're seeking 3, 4, and 5. Now let's get those. Oh, we can go minuet. Let me put that in white here so it'll stand out. Okay, so there's a contender for a 1. So this wacky 2, I think, is reasonable here. So if indeed the 2 is in, we're right where we'd like to find it, between the 50 and the 618. It looks like the 50 is a strong contender here for our pivot. So coming off of that, how do I look? Do I have enough here that might support the idea of looking for something more substantial on the upside? So if we think about targets as to where that third's going to go, well, all right, we know, all right, negative 100 is a good shorthand for our, for our wave 3 targets. So let's see, you got to put these somewhere, so we'll just park them up here. So we can certainly see that there's a reasonable case to be made here for algos participating here. Now they've defended it multiple times, so there would be their first target, second, third target. So I think there's a decent little trade here that could be underway. So again, as I was saying earlier, by the time this thing, if it does this, if we pump like this, well, then it'll be, Nano will be up here on one in the top ranks here. I think it's way down in the 43. It's about number 43 in its alt rank, but its galaxy score is 69. So still strength of project very strong. And then over here via their algo scoring here, we're number 6 or 7 here. So you know, it's got the foundation here of kind of the quick snapshot look that we can take at strength of project here. Now, you know, you have to decide whether or not for yourself how much you want to weight, you know, this site's algo scoring here. So I would encourage you to read through how they're ranking them here, and it should make sense to you. Same thing here, right? Are we getting the social buzz? Are people interested? Is there volume? Is there activity? Is there commentary? So all of that said, let's go back here to our chart. So reasonable expectation that 2 is in, and if we're starting on the 3, well, we may have our first little 1, 2, and this, if it's going up, if it's going this high, well, this could well just be the 1, 2 of the 1, right? I mean, in terms of where the potential is, if we think about where it's been. But we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. So let's go now down to a 1 hour and see if we can break into this count. So coming off the low here, you've got the, you know, this is your ultimate low, but I wouldn't call this 1, 2. This whole area, I think we don't really start until, you could go 1, 2 here. So if I wanted to put the C here, it doesn't really matter, right? So I've got a contender here for a 1, and then again I get a double bottom down here, so you can see all of this gets tested repeatedly down here. So where is the 2 here? I mean, that's probably, you'd have to go A, B, C, right? It's sloppy, it's messy down here. These aren't going to be great formations here, but what follows is where you start to get interested. So if this is if I get this right on the pivot, I mean, and this is the kind of thing that would attract my eye. So if I can get that right on that pivot. So when I see this, right, this is the kind of thing to look for, right? So when we come that close to overlapping, if I get it, and we just miss it, well, that's a heads up, okay? Something that's not random, guys. I promise you that. So that tells me that I've got a contender here for a 4 because I'm spared the overlap, right? So if it's 1, 2, 3, well, okay. So how does that look as a 3? Okay, now am I going to see a crystal clear impulse down here? Probably not. But you could. Now you went down to a 5 minute. Looks like there's your 3, 4, 5. But I want to look at the range of it. So I'm just looking for traditional fib relationships here. How do I look here if I'm just trying to play it by the book? So if I go 1 to my 2, what do? Right? I promise you guys, this stuff is not random. Right, so if that's 1 and that's 2, and I'm going to the 1618 to the tick, and now I come down, and right, see, you go, why does it stop there? Why does it stop there? Right, why doesn't it overlap? Well, of course, the first thing you're going to do is just measure it and see what we do here. Well, we get between the 50 and the 618. It's not tick perfect, but what is tick perfect is that we don't overlap that 1. So strong contender here for the 4, just off of observation, right? And Right, the fact that we get between the 50 and the 618, well, you know, I would have been concerned if we'd broken this and got the 6. It doesn't look great. But then now here's we look at it, you can see the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that gives us our kicker in the 5th. So we get the extension in the 5th. So if I look length of the 1 from that 4, you know, it's not tick perfect, but I'm coming up here, you know, I'm just getting through the 175. So I like this as at least, you know, if I'm first mapping the trade out, it looks like I've got all the right ingredients here for an impulse off of the low, right? Whatever pivot you want to call the low. I don't know that it really matters here, but this being the 1, 2, right? That's what matters to me. So I get a perfectly technical 3, 4, again, perfectly technical here. Up we go. So contender for the 1. Well, now I think A, B, C. All right, so I've got that. Now it's gone deep. It did break the golden zone. So if I use, even if I use I'm going to use this pivot here because I think that's where it starts. So if I use this, even if I use this, which is where I think that 1 really starts. 1, 2, 3. Oh, jeez, it's ugly. 1, 2, A. So you'd have to trade it as a diagonal. 1, 2, 3, 4 for the overlap, 5 to get you your 1. Okay, so we go A, B, C, we come 7, 8, 6. All right, so you lose the golden zone here, but slow down here. That's not as big a negative as it might first appear. So obviously we'd like to hold if you're even if you went to the lowest pivot, right? You've broken. So 7, 8, 6, damn near to the tick. So from an Elliott perspective, I've got a contender for a 2, right? I did lose the buy side algo, but I can pick it up again based on what happens here. So if that's ABC, well, of course I want to kind of go, oh shit, you know, why didn't it hold? So if I look here, what do I have? Right? I've got a swing. I get an internal retracement, right? It's internal, and it goes external. Well, that looks like that might be technical to me. So if I just grab this and I go down to my pivot low, get right on it, get on my pivot low. All right, what do we get? All right, you guys, again, I promise you this stuff it's just not random, right? I mean, how many times have I shown it? I you know, thousands of times, right? So as we come up here, and you're looking and go, why does it stop there? Right? That's always the question you got to ask. Why doesn't it keep going? Well, all right, so there we go. All right, swing, gold. Note, not the 618, golden zone, right? Right to target. Look at the reaction, right? So we don't have to wonder what happened there. We know exactly what happened there. Algorithm sold it here, took its profit, boom, look at the reaction. Okay, so that said, right, without dwelling on that, because I think, well, certainly members, we're past the point where we have to wonder about what happened there. So we can say, okay, I got a 5, I got a 3, and now, oh, look at that reaction coming off of that. So again, I'm down here. This is a 1 hour. We could go 30-minute, right? You can want to dig into it a little bit more. So you got to, you know, this, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can get your C here. So, you know, again, 30-minute. You get on a 5-minute, you probably get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's all right, right? So there's a 1 little ABC into the 2. We're getting really nano, you know, with nano here. So 1, 2, 3. So you go, all right, well, all right. It's small. These are tiny little swings, but are they technical? Well, we get here. Well, I'm getting. So it could be. You've got 3 here. 4 has gone in and we're getting 5 now, right? That wouldn't make me, I wouldn't be disappointed here. So again, do you see what I'm doing there? I'm just using the 1, 6, 1, 8. So if this is 1, 2 and my 2, and I've got the 2 correctly identified, well, there's 3 going right to the 1, 6, 1, 8, 1, 7, 5 window, a little sideways action for the 4. Now, nothing says 5 is done. Could be a little more kick here. But right now, I'm just waiting for this to complete. Let's go to the 15, right? I don't like to go usually below that. All right, so just putting it together one swing at a time. Do I get a corrective move here? Yes. Is it technical? Yes. Do I get an impulse coming off of that? Well, you make a case for it. So if that 1, 2, 3, this may not be done. So just standard ops here. All right, so I got a 1, 2 looking here, so I don't get the 4 there. So now I've got a contender. Here, let's take this off, and we'll go to more traditional. And we'll look. That looks like a channel that's in play, so I do something like that. So I can take advantage of these pivots here. So if this is my 4 here after a little sideways 1, 2, looks like possibly 1, 2. So I have a reasonable target up here. I'm going to wick this off in case the thing starts to fall apart. All right. So if it's going to come down here, I don't want to see that overlap right here. I want to see this go up and get that 5. I want to complete this up here. Standard stuff, right? Length of the 1, if that's my 4 right here. Well, we're just coming up on the 100, so right, that wouldn't be surprising. Length of the 1 projected from the proposed 4 to hit 100. Now we're just a few shy of it, but it looks like it might have more to go, because if that's 1, 2, looks like there's 3, 4. We might get the 1, 6, 1, 8 up here. So I've got something that started. So good. Do I want to buy it here? No, absolutely not. But boy, is this on my radar now. So as it's coming, right? So I don't buy anything that's going up. We wait, right? And you take my word for it or not. Are you going to miss trades if you wait and you don't buy breakouts? Of course you are, right? I'm not suggesting that breakouts are never successful, but by no means am I suggesting that. But in terms of as a trader, it's just high risk to buy breakouts, right? So let's see if I can give you a good example here. Yeah, we'll get to one. Trying to show you an example where it failed, but it's just a higher risk, right? I continue to harp on this. You don't want to buy things that are going up, right? I know that's counterintuitive. I completely get it. It's not about where it's not about where it is. Like, so if it's going up here, so you could say, hey Sam, what about that right there? Right? Let me get that. Oh, fuck. Get that off. Okay. So you say, hey, that was a breakout, wasn't it? Right? It broke that high, breakout. Yeah. Okay. Great. So I'm not saying that you either one, if you resist that temptation, if you don't take those breakouts, but it's got to be in the context of it. So in this case, see here, I can just label it here. We can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Does it make sense there? Well, that's not a trade that I would take, because I'd be looking to buy it here at the 4. I want to buy things that are retracing internally. So if I just, simple stuff, right? So here, we're between the 50 and the 618, that's where I want to buy it so that I'm not vulnerable. Oh shit, I know this is getting hard for you guys to see. I'm just trying to make this point. I want to buy it here and let it go external. I want to be in for the ride as it breaks and goes. I don't want to make the assumption that if it breaks that pivot, it's going to keep going. Right? I promise you, more money lost on double tops than any other formation in trading. Period. Because traders know, right? Experienced traders know it's a high risk place to enter the market. It's a great place if you're already long and you see a break. That's a reason to let something continue to go. But as an entry, it's really, if I could just boil it down, it's a lousy place to enter the market because the probabilities are working against you, because other traders are right there waiting. They know stops are there. It's just a high risk way to do it. If you get right there, again, as I said, you're going to miss trades, some that are going to go. But if I can buy the internal retracement and let it go external, much better odds, because as it's coming down, look, so here I can put my stop right underneath under the golden zone. So my risk reward here is so much better than if I'm a buyer here. Right? So if I'm a buyer here, where's my stop? Am I putting it down here? Look at the difference between the two. Which one is going to let you survive to trade another day if you're wrong? And first assumption is always that, what if I'm wrong? Right? Shit, I'm wrong all the time. It's not about being right. It's about making money. You got to get your ego out of it, right? So again, I'm wrong all the time. Everybody is. And any good trader who tells you that he's right more than he's wrong is completely full of shit. It's just not. No one is. No one is. Well, maybe the bond traders on Goldman Sachs, right? But for the average trader, that we are all in the category of average retail trader. The distance here, the risk reward is so much better, because otherwise, and I've said this many times before, otherwise if you take the breakout, then you can't use the market. You're just using some random 2%, 3%, whatever your number is here. Well, if I do it here, I'm using the market. I've got a very, very small risk factor here, because I know there's a reasonable probability that golden zone can hold. If it doesn't hold, remember, look what happens here. If I'm thinking I've got an impulse underway here, 1, 2, 3, 4. If it takes out that 1, well, this count that I'm trying to put together is breaking down. So I don't want to give it all that room. I don't want to do that. I want to do this. I want to do that just in case I'm wrong. So even if it does something like this and it comes down and it wicks and then goes, right, gets through by a little bit, I still am going to wait for the internal, right? It's always a better way to trade the market. Internal that goes external rather than waiting for the breakout to external, right? You're leaving all of this on the table. So you've increased your risk, right, and reduced your potential reward. So the R&R, the risk reward on the trade, or the R multiple, however you want to call it, is much worse here when you're a breakout trader, right, than when you're trading down here, right? I'm just really trying to drive this point home. So when you get the opportunity, right? So you want to buy it. See, if you're bullish, I'm looking for the retrace, right? If I'm bearish, I'm looking for the retrace, right? So here, good example, right? Swing, internal, goes external, right? I don't want to. Right, you can. I hear you. You can say, hey, well, it broke the golden zone and went down. Well, yeah, golden zones break all the time. It's not. I'm not saying they don't break. Obviously, right? We go sideways forever. Of course they break. Right? One side always wins. Oh shit! Is that? Jesus, right? So you go, hey, that went up here. It came down. There's your internal retracement. What happened, Sam? What happened? Well, here's what happened. Right? This algo wins the day. Right? They take it all the way down past third target. But so this is probably, of all the mistakes I see in the market, right, of everything I could possibly put in front of you, the worst thing that you could do is buy this. Right? So when you got to wait for it to clear. You got to wait for it to clear. Right? Because this is a trade I see people make all the time. Hey, it's going. They don't know that golden zone's there. Oh, see, here's a good one. Breakout. I got a breakout. So, hey, I got an internal retracement and it's breaking out. You got to wait for it to clear that. You have to wait for that, right? So, because this is exactly what will happen. Right? You'll think, you'll right, maybe you don't have your count right, or all sorts of reasons. Maybe you're not, you don't believe in Elliott Wave, whatever the case may be. You've got something here. Oh, it's going up. It's going up. You got to get on the other side of that golden zone, right before. And if it does it, often if it gets on the other side, now you got to wait for the next one, right? It's just the constant problem. That's just such a textbook example. I see this in the futures room amongst day traders all the time. They don't know it's there. Either they don't know it's there or they forget it's there. I've done it before. I've seen something going and said, oh shit, right? Forgot to check, right? And that'll be the pivot, right? Look at that. Do you see that? That is right in, I promise. So you see it hits the 618 and then pauses, and then we got a little poke into the golden zone, right? That's just all that's happening there. Is the people that don't know about the 65 have put their stop one tick on the other side of the 618, right? And this, oh God, the pain there, and just the ass whipping you give yourself for doing that, because I promise you, somebody got filled on a long there, right? Look what happened to them. You got to wait for it to clear. You got to have room, especially if you're down here on these shorter time frames. You got to get clearance, right? You got to have a place where there's no immediate swing resistance. The algo is on the other side because they're just waiting for it. They're just waiting for it. All right, so I got on a little bit of a rant there. Didn't mean to. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, looks like, okay, if that's the 4, then maybe I got a 1, 2, and I'm in the 3 going for the 5. So I've got something that's in play here. I've got something that's moving. I'm down here on this 15-minute. I've got this nice channel that's pushing higher. Now, am I looking to be a buyer here? Right? Well, of course not, right? After we just went through. But so I've got a contender here for the 2. I got a 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like I'm working towards that 5. Once I get that 5, what are we waiting for, right? Internal, right? Knowing that, so let's just say we pivot up here, right? So if it pivots up here, let's use here. We'll just use this, right? We're going to go up here. We're going to get our 5 right here. So we're going to start that retrace. So it starts, so here we get it, it starts, we're coming down in a nice 3. If it comes here, right, we buy it all day long, right? So what have I got there? An internal retracement that now I'm in a technical buy zone, and I've got a clear first target. So this is where we want to be a buyer. So if you can, right now the market's not always going to cooperate. This thing could be we could be way up here. It's the same thing. You're consistently waiting. Now this looks like per the swing relationships, unless we're going to get an extension and we got to keep working the 3 higher before we get to the 4. Right? Again, I'm using the where was it here? I'm using the 1618 kind of to lead me into where to place that 3. Right? It certainly doesn't mean it must be there. It could certainly go higher. But right now, I got an eyeball on this. Okay, I'm waiting. So if it gets to here and we start to move higher, right, I've got to pay attention to this. I got to pay attention to what happens right here in the same way that you had to pay attention to what happened right here. Right? It has to clear. So if it comes up here and you bump into that, well, one of two things you have to consider. Well, you got to look at, okay, are the oscillators any help here? Am I overbought here? Is the RSI as it was here, do we have any sort of divergence here? Is there some sort of a tell that might encourage me to think, oh, whoa, wait a minute, maybe I want to be cautious here for the, now, then you're thinking to yourself, would that fit with the count? If we pivot here, well, maybe it would, right? So that could certainly be the 1, 2 before we go 3. So are you here? The question you got to ask yourself is, okay, do I want to take a partial profit here? Do I want to tighten my stop? Right? Because nothing, of course, they have to break eventually, right? Or again, we just go sideways. But would that make sense here if it started to retrace there, if it bumped into it from this side, right? Because algo doesn't care, right? It's just sitting right there waiting to sell it. Well, if it did that and it came down here, would this not be a reasonable spot? Right? See, it just goes on. It just keeps repeating. All right, so let's play it forward so you can get the idea here. Okay, so we got an ABC. So I think at this point, right, just to carry the teachable moment through. Okay, there's 3, 4, 5. Okay, let's break it up. Let's go up a degree. All right, so I think I've got my 1 in off of this. Now here, let's go. Let's put this up a degree. We'll go to minuet. Okay, so I think I've got 1, 2, and I think I'm in the start of the 1 of the 3rd at this degree, right? So I think I've got 1, 2, and going in here, here's my 2. My assumption is, oh, if that's ABC, perfectly technical, lovely little 3, up I go. Well, that's not likely. If this is at the larger degree, the 1, that's not going to be the 3. So what does that leave for me? Well, it's likely the 1, right? If the count's going to hold, big if the count is going to hold and stay together, then I'm looking for a big 3 up here. Well, back to what I was saying before. Now, right, you've got to wait for it to clear. Right? It's not clear until it's clear, right? So if it were to hit its head here and bump into the algo resistance and start to come back down, would that make sense relative to where I think I am in the count? Well, if this is the one and we've done an ABC and I'm looking for the 3, well, I'm not going to get there in a straight line. Most likely. Let me add that qualifier. I'm looking for 3, 4, 5. Let's just do it that way. All right, so I'm looking for that is my outcome. Well, if I pivot here and start to retrace, that makes sense. Because I'm looking for the 1, 2. So I know there's an algo. Right? So remember, then it starts all over again. I get a new pivot. What do I do here? All right, so this is why often you'll see markets, they'll get stuck. They'll get stuck in a box, just algos battling it out. You don't know who's going to win. So this is where the Elliott wave can be helpful. Who do I, at this point in time, based on the count, as I'm evaluating it here, now again, I'm all theoretical here, right? I don't have any of this, obviously, right? But I'm just working through the idea. Okay, if I think I've got my 2 of the 3 of the larger degree, and I bump into the resistance here and it comes down. Well, where am I looking for the 2? Right at the next degree. Are you guys? I hope you're following. I know this gets a little convoluted here, so I'm looking for the 1, 2 at this degree to continue to go higher. So 1, 2. Now, when it gets through here, I've broken all the resistance because now I'm through and I have a clear path. So it literally has to break this one so that it can actually achieve a 3. Right, but it can go sideways here for a while as they battle out. Who's going to win? Bulls, bears, bulls, bears. We don't ultimately know until we see the result. Once it breaks, now it's in the clear. It's broken the sell side resistance. So I hope that helps you, but it's so common. I mean, you have to be aware of where that resistance is, or you'll buy right into it. I've done it, right? I see people do it all the time. You're coming off of this one and you bump into this one. This is very common, particularly in the S&P, right? It'll just algo ping pong. It'll just go from one to the next to the next to the next to the next. It's just nonstop, right? One side, the other side, right? We don't know who's on side of it. It could be the same people, could be 1,000 different institutions that are implementing this algorithm. We don't care. We just want to get, once it gets clear, that's where you want to be in the trade. Now, so you say, well, do I wait for the breakout? Right, so you've left all of this. So if you put it here, where's your stop? If you take the breakout, where's your stop? Right, you got to put it back down here, right? The risk reward, that may be too much to pay based on the size. So one of them has to break, right? Or again, we go sideways. So, but I want to, if I can, let me see if I use this. If I can at least experience this much profit, now at the very least, I can move my stop to break even. Maybe even a little bit further so I can lock in a little profit in case we're going to go into one of these chop zones, right? We're going to do something like this until one side wins. But here, at least I'm playing with house money, right? If I'm a buyer here, I get to here. Well, I got to decide. Now, if that's the S&P, you might have six points, right? So you might say I'm perfectly content there, and if it goes higher, so be it. But if it's nano to Bitcoin, we're looking for something more substantial. So I want to hold. Right? I want to see what happens there, but if I can get through it, now that maybe, perhaps that's a place to add a little bit. Right? And the only reason you would add there is one, I've already got the profit established here. So I'm adding with house money. If I can get through this, I know I've broken the resistance. So once I'm here, now I'm in the clear. But you're not there until you're there. And I've seen it go one tick and then come back. Right? You have to have it clear. You want to see good volume. You want the oscillators to not be overbought so that there's runway for this to go. Otherwise, you get just stuck in the sideways crap, right? Which is untradeable, right? And you get eaten alive in that, right? Sideways, chop zone. Right, but I'm just trying to make that point. You have to pay attention no matter where it is. Even here, you look at that little one, you're like, oh, that's no big deal. Oh, the hell it wasn't. I promise you, some algorithm got well paid right there for that golden zone, that third target, right? The size they're trading. Right, again, now here we're in nano, right? So who knows what kind of size is there? But again, you see that in the S&P or the Nasdaq. Those are big moves. So I know that's an absolute cluster F of lines, and it's very hard to see. But I just want to draw your eyes and your mind to this because we tend to get out here. We get on the on the 3 hour and before, and you got to get all the way down here. I don't like to go below the 15 unless I'm trying to qualify a count because it's just noise. You've got to pay attention to where these pivots are, but what you're looking for is where it gets clear, where we clear resistance. Now it's got room to run, and that's the trade that you don't get your stop too tight. You want to give that room to breathe so that it can achieve its target. Or in this case, we've got a target. If this we're going to hold is the 2, we've got a target way the hell up here, right? This is the 3rd relative to this 1, 2, right? So you've seen me do this 1,000 times. So if this is the 1 and we get the 2 here, well, there's the 1, 6, 1, 8 right up here. Right, 3, 4, 5, of course, all that we'd be looking for that much higher. Get this up here. So that's what I'm looking at here, and that's exactly what I'm hoping is going to play out. Literally, swing by swing. If I could wish it, right, I'd put the pivot in up here. We'd run into this structure. I get 3 down into the buy zone. I got to watch here, so I am a buyer down here, but I got to watch for what happens here. If we clear, all right, now I'm a little more aggressive and I'm a little more optimistic about where that's going. Okay, guys, I thought it was just going to be a nice little quiet video about nano to Bitcoin, and hopefully you get something out of that, guys. Okay, there you go. Oh, shit, what time is it? Well, that may do it for the day. All right, there's 30 minutes. Okay, guys, talk to you later.